Michael Caine was the kind of man who believed in the simple pleasures of life: a steady job, his beloved family, and the warmth of home. He had built a life based on trust and hard work, convinced that the foundation he created with his wife Laura would withstand any storm. Their marriage, 20 years in the making, felt like a fortress against the world, each brick laid with love and mutual respect. But, as Michael soon discovered, even the strongest fortresses have hidden cracks, and sometimes it's the very ones you trust who wield the sledgehammer. The morning started innocently enough. Michael sat at the kitchen table, sipping coffee, while glancing through financial reports for the month. He noticed a few unusual transactions on their joint account. They were smaller amounts, nothing too alarming, but curiosity gnawed at him. Laura had been acting distant lately, her laughter replaced by a silence that filled their home like a thick fog. But he brushed it off. She was busy with work, and he was caught up with the pressures of his own job. When he confronted her about the transactions that evening, her answer was vague, laced with irritation. "You know how things can get, Michael. It's just expenses. Stop being paranoid." He accepted her words, desperate to believe her. A part of him yearned to avoid confrontation, to preserve what he thought was left of their love. Days passed, and the unsettling feeling deepened. It was a Friday night when Michael's world unraveled entirely. He decided to stop by the hotel where Laura had claimed to have a work event. The scene that awaited him was etched in his mind forever. Laura, intertwined with another man, their laughter echoing through the room like a death knell. It was Andrew, his colleague and supposed friend, a man he had shared countless beers with after work. The visceral rage surged within him, burning away any remnants of doubt. Their eyes met, Laura's wide with horror, Andrew's with a defiant arrogance that ignited Michael's fury. He stormed into the room, heart pounding. "What the hell is going on?" The casual facade of betrayal cracked under the weight of his presence. Laura leaped back, scrambling to cover herself with a sheet, while Andrew merely smirked, as though savoring the power he wielded. "Michael, I can explain." Laura started, her voice laced with fear, yet the sincerity had vanished. "All the lies, Laura?" he snapped, his voice raised. "You're sleeping with my best friend? After all we've built?" He could feel the walls closing in, the suffocating reality of her deceit suffusing the air between them. Andrew stood, the smile fading as he realized Michael wasn't just a scorned husband. He was a volcano ready to erupt. "Come on, man," he said, raising his hands in mock defense. "You can't seriously think this matters?" But in that moment, Michael saw everything clearly. He reached for his phone, dialing a conference call. "I'm having a little get-together. Bring the drinks." As he spoke, Andrew's bravado collapsed. The game was over, and now the world would see them for what they truly were. 2 days later, Michael hosted a gathering that turned into a public spectacle. Friends, acquaintances, and co-workers filled the living room, the atmosphere thick with tension and anticipation. When the doorbell rang, he knew it was time. As he opened the door to reveal Laura and Andrew, chatter died down, eyes drawn to the trio. Laura's face drained of color, and Andrew's confidence flickered like a dying flame as their eyes met the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen," Michael began, his voice steady, drowning out the rising murmurs, "I'd like to introduce you to the biggest lie of my life." He gestured dramatically, and the room fell into a hushed silence. The whispering among the guests intensified, voices alight with shock, some gleeful, others aghast. Michael stepped forward. "These two thought they could hide their betrayal from me," he continued, pausing for effect. "But I believe in transparency and trust." He revealed the evidence: screenshots of incriminating text messages, financial transactions spent on lavish dinners, every detail meticulously documented. Gasps echoed through the room. Faces turned towards Laura and Andrew, no one willing to hide the truth any longer. The betrayal was palpable. One of Michael's friends, Sarah, stood up first. "I can't believe you would do this, Laura. We trusted you." Her voice, now icy, sliced through the room like a knife. Under the weight of scrutiny, Laura collapsed, tears streaming down her face. "Michael, "I'm so sorry," she sobbed, while Andrew, previously defiant, shifted uncomfortably, realizing everyone had turned against him. Michael leaned in, every word dripping with venom. "You destroyed what we had. You and him together. You think those hollow apologies mean anything? You can't take back the lies you've spun." The crowd erupted once more, laughter mingling with disdain. "Get out of here," Michael commanded, his voice strong, echoing off the walls. The couple stumbled back, their pride shattered. In that moment, Michael saw them reduced to nothing. Two traitors stripped of their facades, exposed under the harsh glare of revelation. Their pleas fell on deaf ears. No one was extending an olive branch, only scorn. But this was just the beginning for Michael. The taste of revenge was intoxicating, and he felt a strength he never knew he possessed. He began to plan methodically. Every financial aspect of their life would be dismantled. The life that Laura and Andrew enjoyed, built on deceit, would crumble as he pulled the strings with precision. What once felt like the precipice of despair now stoked a fire within him he couldn't quell. He was reborn not as a victim, but as a conqueror, and he relished every moment. Michael was ready to unleash his full wrath upon the duo, primed to strip them of their livelihoods, reputations, and any semblance of a future they thought warranted them. This wouldn't just end with a public disgrace. It would culminate in their complete obliteration. Little did Laura know, this new Michael Caine was determined to ensure that her actions had consequences. Betrayal, he believed, should always meet with fierce justice, and he was the one to serve it cold. In the aftermath of the public humiliation, Michael wasted no time in executing his plan. The instinct to survive had awakened in him, sharper than the dull pain of betrayal. Days after the humiliating gathering, he began extracting himself from the emotional abyss, driven now by a singular force: revenge. He dove into research, poring over financial records, court documents, and property agreements. All the facets of their life together that he had once simply accepted as part of his stable world. He meticulously documented every expenditure that Laura had made during their marriage that involved Andrew. There was a kind of grim satisfaction in sifting through the spreadsheets he'd kept for their joint expenses. Each entry was a reminder of her deceit, each number further fueling the fire inside him. He called in favors from friends and former colleagues, gathering evidence, testimonials, anything that could be turned into an asset against both of them. Andrew, he learned, had always been a charming figure with a reckless lifestyle, consistently stretching the limits of credit and borrowing against his future. Michael knew the perfect way to hit him hard where it hurt: his financial stability. Michael arranged discreet lunches with colleagues from the firm, planting seeds of doubt and sharing the revelations he had unearthed. He was careful, ensuring that every word only bolstered his reputation as the aggrieved husband, while systematically dismantling Laura and Andrew's credibility. "You won't believe the lengths they went to keep this under wraps," he would say in a conspiratorial tone. "Imagine what it would mean for the firm if this came out." As word spread, their mutual friends began to distance themselves, peeling away one by one. The whispers grew louder, and soon, the disdain echoed between the walls of their shared social circles. Invitations became scarce for Laura and Andrew, their faces showing up less frequently at gatherings that had once been routine. It was during one such gathering at a mutual friend's house that the final straw snapped in Laura's world. Unbeknownst to her, Michael was 10 steps ahead, armed with a legal strategy that would have both of them scrambling for cover. During dinner, he stood tall and composed, casual against the chaos brewing behind the scenes of their lives. As she entered the room, a ripple of silence fell. Michael seized the moment. "Everyone, I have an announcement," he began, his voice resounding through the space. "I'm pursuing a divorce based on infidelity, and I'm seeking financial compensation for damages incurred by fraud and betrayal." Gasps punctuated the room. Laura's face paled. She turned to Andrew, who shifted uneasily. It was clear the fallout was not just contained to their marriage. The ramifications were rippling through their entire circle. Her body language screamed anguish, But Michael remained unyielding. He relished in this moment the control he had regained over his life. "What's more," he continued, "I've made sure that the legal documents are filed for the court hearing. It's going to get quite interesting." Laughter erupted from the guests, further drowning Laura in humiliation. The reality of her choices bore down on Laura like a heavy fog. She struggled to maintain her composure, her facade cracking in front of witnesses she thought would stand by her side. The eyes of their friends no longer held compassion. They burned with judgment. In the coming weeks, Michael escalated his campaign of vengeance. He filed for divorce, presenting damning evidence of Laura's infidelity and coercing their financial assets and joint property into the courts. The documents laid bare the indiscretions that Laura had sought to bury deep beneath a polished veneer of suburban bliss. He wasn't forgiving or understanding. He flatly delivered financial statements that revealed just how much she had exploited their shared finances for her affair. Every meeting with the lawyers was a triumph for him, a powerful reminder that he had reclaimed his agency. The financial ruin that awaited Laura and Andrew became increasingly real as their lawyers sparred in court. They wouldn't simply lose status. Michael was determined to strip them of every last financial tie that kept them afloat. Weeks rolled into a grueling routine of court hearings, paperwork, and strategy. With each ruling in his favor, it became painfully clear to Laura that Michael's grit and pragmatism outmatched any romanticized notion of love she once held. Michael relished these victories, feeding off her vulnerabilities, thriving on the realization that the tables had turned entirely. The defining moment came during a particularly heated court session. Michael's attorney presented evidence of Laura withdrawing substantial amounts of money to fund the affair, money they had intended to save for their children's education. The courtroom erupted in murmurs, and Laura felt the air leave her lungs, the weight of her treachery settling like a lead weight in her stomach. In the hallway, she confronted Michael, tears streaming down her face. "You don't have to do this, Michael." "Please," she pleaded, desperation lacing her voice. He scoffed, every ounce of regret stripped away, transformed into a cold stare. "This is your doing, Laura. You made your choices." It felt liberating to reject her apologies, knowing they were nothing more than a last-ditch effort to salvage a broken facade. As weeks turned into months, the pressure emanating from the courts only intensified. Friends abandoned them. Colleagues whispered behind their backs. Even family members chastised Laura for her greed and infidelity. Andrew, once confident, found himself ensnared in a web of financial despair as Michael effectively cut off access to the lifeblood of their previous lives. Andrew's downfall was spectacular. With mounting debts and a tainted reputation, Laura soon found herself alone, abandoned, and destitute. She relied on the pitiful scraps of sympathy he could provide. Each plea for help was met with indifference, and the chasm of betrayal had cemented the reality. She had destroyed not only her marriage, but also her own self-worth. The final confrontation played out in front of a packed courtroom. Michael stood, poised and unyielding, prepared to deliver the final blow. He watched Laura squirm, knowing that his revelations would decimate her once pristine reputation. As the judgment was read, awarding him sole custody of their children and significant financial reparations, Laura broke down completely. In her desperation, she stumbled forward, voice cracking as she begged for reconciliation. "Michael, please, just give me a chance to fix this." He looked down at her, a mix of pity and contempt washing over him. "You don't get it, do you? You don't deserve a second chance. You've shown me who you really are." Michael could see the shame overshadow her face, the tears mingling with the realization that this was it, the end of everything she had taken for granted. His victory was complete, ensuring her silent understanding that ruthless honesty was far more potent than any version of love she had hoped for. What he had built was beyond her grasp. As he walked away, free from the chains of betrayal and deceit, he felt a strange sense of calm. The weight of Laura's choices lay heavy on her, and he had emerged unscathed. Not just a survivor, but a victor. The sound of the gavel echoed in the courtroom as he stepped out, leaving Laura and Andrew stranded in the wreckage they had wrought. With a newfound resolve, Michael embraced his freedom. He was ready to reconstruct his life from the ashes, determined to emerge even stronger. This was not just survival. It was a testament to his unyielding spirit, a complete taking back of his narrative. Michael Caine's triumph was devoid of any lingering bitterness. He had transformed the pain of betrayal into a catalyst for redemption. Each step away from the drudgery of his failed marriage brought him closer to a life that was authentic and entirely his own. He embraced the unfamiliar territory of single parenthood, diving into the chaos with the same intensity he had once reserved for his career. Their home, once a ground zero of emotional turmoil, began to feel alive again, filled with laughter and security he thought was irretrievably lost. The mornings were filled with the sounds of pancakes sizzling on the griddle, the chatter of his two children, Mia and Ethan, frolicking around and vying for their father's attention. He reveled in this new routine, cherishing each moment that had once been enveloped by Laura's absence. The house was now a sanctuary of honesty, rife with conversations that taught his children about loyalty, respect, and the importance of choosing who you let into your heart. His children were his primary focus, and he dedicated himself to creating a wholesome home environment, making up for the emotional deficiencies they'd experienced during the tumultuous breakdown of his marriage. Financially, though, the aftermath of the divorce posed its challenges. Yet Michael had meticulously calculated every expense, ensuring school supplies were in order, and extracurricular activities weren't sacrificed in their new reality. Nevertheless, the sting of betrayal was not easily forgotten. As the months progressed, Michael's thoughts occasionally drifted not just to the happiness he was rebuilding, but to Laura and Andrew. The couple, now grappling with the consequences of their choices, had become something akin to pariahs in their social circle. Michael had deliberately forged narrative threads that painted them as untrustworthy and unprincipled, effectively alienating them from their former lives. Laura, once basking in a comfortable lifestyle, had succumbed to a bleak reality, her isolation deepening as they lost friends, becoming a cautionary tale for others. Every missed invitation functioned as a reminder of her decisions, whispering through the grapevine and establishing her as a figure of ridicule. The whispers reverberated through dinner parties and gatherings, now devoid of her presence. As Michael walked through the mall one afternoon with Mia and Ethan, laughter sparking between them, he spotted Laura sitting alone at a nearby cafe. Her once vibrant demeanor had dulled, her hair unkempt, and she seemed to clutch a coffee as though it was the only warmth her world had left. The sight triggered a wave of conflicting emotions, a blend of empathy and vindication. "Dad, can we get ice cream?" Ethan's bright voice snapped him from his reverie, and he nodded, redirecting his focus to his children, bearing any remnant of pity he might have felt for Laura. She had made her choices. They had resulted in his newfound strength and resolve. Days turned into weeks, and Michael's children began flourishing, excelling in school and developing a stronger bond with their father. Each milestone brought pride, yet also a reminder of what they had endured together. It reinforced his ambition to cultivate a life devoid of broken trust or deceit. Each day was filled with laughter, love, and above all, integrity. In the meantime, Andrew became an increasingly distant memory. The man who had once provoked Michael's rage transformed into an almost pathetic figure, struggling to regain footing in both his finances and reputation. His bravado had disappeared, leaving him wrestling with debt, which Michael had strategically orchestrated in their divorce. Losing status within their industry proved catastrophic for him, as whispers of Andrew's past choices lingered like shadows, never fully escaping scrutiny. Yet fate often weaves irony into the fabric of life. One balmy Friday evening, Michael received an unexpected call from an old colleague, Greg. "Michael, I've got something you might want to know about," Greg said, voice low, filled with the type of urgency that instantly piqued Michael's interest. He could hear murmurs in the background, and Greg continued, "Andrew's struggling to keep his head above water. His creditors are closing in. Rumors are that he's been trying to sue you for defamation." The name sent a shudder through Michael. Andrew was still trying to fight back? The audacity was staggering and yet not surprising given all he had witnessed before. "I need to meet with you," Michael answered coolly. When they met, Greg revealed that Andrew had approached a local attorney, painting himself as a victim caught in Michael's meticulous plot. "He's convinced he can turn the tables," Greg said, shaking his head. "He's scrapping for any shred of validation left after the public fallout. He thinks he has a case. Just thought you should be aware." The information sparked anger in Michael, but also a strange exhilaration. Andrew's attempt at intimidation was pathetic. It was desperate. Instead of providing the satisfaction of panic, it propelled Michael into a brisk, calculated response. "I'll make sure this lawsuit meets the same fate as his career," he declared, an icy determination setting in. Andrew's attempts to claw back into relevance through legal means struck a chord. It was time to nip this in the bud. As Michael prepared to navigate yet another legal minefield, he steeled his resolve, not faltering in his commitment to emerge victorious. The strategic maneuvering required would be methodical. He wouldn't be caught off guard like he had been before. If Andrew thought he could play the victim to regain sympathy, he would come to learn that Michael Caine had something much larger to offer, an uncompromising strength woven through each chapter of his story. Days turned into tense weeks, filled with legal meetings, counter-communications between lawyers, and high-stakes discussions that pushed the intensity of the situation into overdrive. With every document filed, Michael felt in control, equipped to face whatever Andrew threw his way. He spent late nights drafting counterclaims and preparing his defense, ensuring he would not only win, but crush any idea that Andrew had of rising from the ashes of his own folly. Finally, the day arrived for the courtroom showdown. Michael's heart raced not out of fear, but out of exhilaration. This was a battle of wills, a confrontation that had been months in the making. As he entered, he was overcome with a sense of power, the knowledge that he had stood back up after being knocked down and was now ready to demonstrate why betrayal has a cost. Andrew fidgeted nervously across the aisle, clearly desperate to retain the facade of confidence. Yet Michael could see the cracks, a man fully aware his chances were dwindling. The tension in the air crescendoed as both sides presented their narratives. With his attorney presenting irrefutable evidence of Andrew's prior conduct, Michael watched as the courtroom slowly shifted. Jurors began shifting in their seats, captivated by the consistency of the case being laid bare before them. Every lie, every attempt at manipulation was unfurled for scrutiny. As the defense attempted to muster sympathy for Andrew, attempting to portray him as the unfairly targeted innocent husband, the judge intervened sharply. "This is a case built on a foundation of deception. In light of the evidence presented, I see no merit." With that declaration, the gavel rang down, sealing Andrew's fate in a stream of failed attempts to recover what he had lost. Michael felt a rush like no other. His careful planning had paid off. And just like that, Andrew was left with nothing but bitterness and regret, the very essence of consequences unfolding before him. As he walked out of the courtroom, it felt surreal. Michael smiled to himself. He had confronted and dismantled the remnants of betrayal that had once threatened to drown him. He was still standing, stronger than ever, fortified by the lessons learned through the fires of adversity. Behind him lay their shattered lives, a testament to the choices they had made. And as he stepped into the sunlight, he felt a profound sense of relief and triumph. The road ahead was filled with potential, and he had the opportunity to mold it anew, without shadows, lurking in the recesses of his heart. Michael Caine had become not just a survivor, but a warrior, resolutely defending his right to happiness and integrity. As he embraced his children, they grinned back, with a love only they could provide, a love unmarred by betrayal. Together they would rebuild a life where honor reigned, a life rooted in truth, a life where he would always remember that some pasts remain buried, but the future is a blank canvas for the bold. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with warm hues of orange and pink, Michael felt a weight lift from his shoulders. The courtroom confrontation had solidified his resolve to forge a new path. He had faced down the remnants of his past and emerged victorious, empowered by the knowledge that he could overcome any obstacle life threw at him. With renewed confidence, he channeled his energy into his children, Mia and Ethan. Every evening became a cherished time filled with stories, laughter, and small adventures that helped lay the foundation for their new lives. They explored parks, attended Little League games, and engaged in family game nights that filled their home with warmth and joy. Each interaction reminded Michael that what he had lost had merely made room for something far greater. But as they settled into their new routine, Michael remained aware that the aftermath of the divorce and its chaotic emotional fallout would linger for a while. Even as he worked diligently to shield his children from the ugliness of their past, the inevitable reminders surfaced. This came to light during a weekend outing at a local grocery store when Mia spotted a magazine with Laura and Andrew on the cover, titled "Scandalous Affair: The Truth Behind the Breakup." "Dad, look!" Mia exclaimed as she pointed at the glossy image. Michael's heart sank, a familiar surge of frustration blending with anger. He placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, but internally he felt the sting of Laura's actions once again. "Let's keep moving, honey. They're just trying to sell magazines." This moment served as a reminder of the emotional scars that still lingered. They had moved on, but the shadows of betrayal reappeared periodically as a stark reminder of the past. This was the reality of rebuilding, a nuanced journey filled with emotional hurdles. In the days that followed, he took a moment to reflect. It became clear that forging a new path meant more than merely coping with decisions others had made. It required actively confronting the impact of those choices on his life and his children's. Michael resolved to build an environment that fostered open communication and resilience, where his family could process their feelings and thrive together. To ensure his children felt safe discussing any feelings surrounding their mother's actions, he initiated weekly family discussions. He wanted Mia and Ethan to express themselves openly without fear of judgment. They began sitting together on Sunday afternoons, each taking turns sharing highlights and challenges from the past week, blending conversations about their school experiences with more profound discussions about family and emotions. It was during one of these sessions, as they sat in the living room surrounded by the remnants of their busy week, that Ethan tentatively brought up the topic of Laura's absence. "Dad, can we talk about Mom?" he asked, his eyes downcast. Michael nodded, his heart aching for the uncertainty that accompanied these discussions. "Yes, we can. What's on your mind, buddy?" "I saw her picture in store like Mia did. She looks sad. Do you think she regrets what she did?" Michael took a deep breath. "I think she may understand the consequences of her choices, Ethan. But what's important is how we respond to those choices. We can't control what she does, but we can decide how we want to live our lives." Mia interjected, "I don't want to think about her. I want to focus on us." "Exactly," Michael replied with a comforting smile. "We're a family and we take care of each other now. What matters is being here for one another." These conversations fostered an emotional intelligence within his children, allowing them to cultivate compassion even in the face of betrayal. Michael was proud to see them growing into empathetic individuals, and he made sure to emphasize that their worth would never be tied to someone else's choices. Meanwhile, the external ramifications of the divorce continued, mostly on Laura and Andrew. Although Michael had managed to regain some semblance of control over his life, he kept track of their fluctuations through friends and loose connections. The world they had built together collapsed into a grim narrative. Andrew hadn't managed to reconcile the debt and scandal that had fallen upon him. Meanwhile, Laura heightened her attempts to reclaim her image. But the facade she wore became increasingly transparent. With time, discussions surrounding Laura took on a different character. When news broke that she had accepted a job far from their hometown, Michael felt a mix of emotions: relief, ambivalence, and a hint of sympathy. Perhaps this departure was what she needed to salvage herself, but it also left a significant void that was now filled with unanswered questions. Soon after her departure, Michael made a point to reach out to his network, informing them of the changes in Laura's circumstances, and adding a note to discuss the importance of creating and maintaining boundaries. He felt it was crucial to maintain clarity about the past and prevent any potential attempts at reconciliation from creeping in. He became the voice of reason, gently steering conversations away from nostalgia and focusing on the present. He was determined that their lives wouldn't be shackled by someone else's mistakes. As months passed, the emotional healing continued. It was an ongoing process, but Michael was learning to live fully, day by day, moment by moment. One Sunday evening, he gathered his children for a night of ice cream and movies, feeling the warmth of home enveloping them. The laughter echoed around the house, and the weight of the past seemed to evaporate. "Dad, can we start a tradition?" Mia asked eagerly. Michael raised an eyebrow, curious. "What do you have in mind?" "Family game night. Every Friday, we can play games and eat snacks," Ethan chimed in. "Yeah, let's do it. It can be our thing." Memories of the chaos from their previous life began to fade, replaced with vibrant new ones. The spirit of resilience coursed through them, and new traditions began to blossom naturally, floral and fragrant, without the cloud of betrayal lingering over them. The world around them continued to evolve, dynamic and relentless in its pace. As holidays rolled around, Michael found renewed motivations: Thanksgiving dinners filled with laughter, gift exchanges that highlighted their uniqueness, and small acts of kindness that reminded them of the importance of community. In each of these moments, he found himself smiling, filled with gratitude for the life they were building. The sense of defeat fueled by the past was replaced by the exhilaration of possibilities that lay ahead. It was a resurgence of hope and connectedness, and they thrived together amidst their growth. As summer approached, a significant turning point arrived. A long-standing friend from high school reached out, one Michael hadn't spoken to in years, offering insights into new business opportunities. An idea began to form, and amidst the joy of familial bonds, Michael recognized an opening that aligned with his experience and entrepreneurial spirit. With the encouragement of Mia and Ethan, he redirected his focus towards creating a business that aligned with his passions. What started as a conversation about the future evolved into a plan. Michael decided to start a consulting firm aimed at helping others navigate difficult crossroads in their lives. His personal experiences would inform every aspect of the business, becoming both a testament to what he had endured and a resource for those grappling with their own challenges. As he shared his vision with his children, their eyes lit up with excitement, thrilled by the prospect of their father creating something impactful. Michael worked tirelessly to set this venture in motion, pouring every ounce of his heart into it, fueled by the idea that he could perhaps empower others to rise from their struggles just as he had. With each passing day, his resolve only intensified. Cultivating connections and relationships over cups of coffee and late-night brainstorming sessions, Michael discovered that sometimes the most significant transformations emerge from the ashes of pain. His story became a guiding light, not just for himself, but for others, navigating similar betrayals. He embraced this new chapter with the hope and belief that the narrative of vulnerability and betrayal could be rewritten into one of strength and renewal. As the days blended seamlessly into nights, Michael prepared to launch his business, a reflection of every tear, every laugh, and every hard-won triumph that had shaped who he was. His life was no longer defined by betrayal. It was illuminated by the potential for collective healing and the celebration of resilience. As he stood at the threshold of this new venture, Michael Caine found clarity in the chaos and grace in the struggle. The future stretched out before him, untouched yet eagerly awaiting his mark. And he was ready to embrace it all. As the launch date for Michael's consulting firm drew near, he felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. The emotional journey from betrayal to empowerment was culminating in this moment, transforming him from a victim of circumstance into a beacon of hope for others. He spent countless hours crafting his business strategy, refining his mission statement, and developing marketing materials that conveyed his passion for helping others navigate their personal crises. His new office space was a modest yet inviting corner in a co-working area downtown. He loved the atmosphere. It was vibrant and filled with ambitious individuals. This convergence of minds reignited Michael's determination. A spirit of camaraderie carried him forward as he officially opened the doors to his consulting business, Resilient Paths. Friends and family gathered for the opening night, their faces glowing with pride and validation of his hard work. Each handshake and compliment served as a reminder that he had transitioned from shadows into a space illuminated by tangible support. He shared his story, framed not just as a tale of loss, but rather as an example that there is strength in vulnerability. Life throws tough challenges, he told the assembled guests, but it's how we choose to respond that defines us. I want to help others at those crossroads discover their resilience. The months flew by, and soon, Michael found himself elbow-deep in consultations. His clients ranged from individuals grappling with personal betrayal to couples on the brink of separation, looking for pathways to salvage their relationships. With each new client, he revisited his own journey, empathy pouring from his heart as he guided them through their own healing. One client, in particular, struck a deep chord with him. Her name was Sarah, and she entered Michael's office with a tangled mix of anxiety and defeat. She shared that her husband had been unfaithful, and the news had shattered her world just as Michael's had been years ago. Listening to her recount the sting of betrayal felt like peeling back layers of his own pain. But he met her vulnerability with compassion. "I felt so lost," she said, tears streaming as she described her once happy life. "Now, I don't know if I can ever feel whole again." Michael leaned forward, his heart aching for her. "I know the depths of that despair. But the journey to healing doesn't mean forgetting or forgiving right away. It means rediscovering who you are and building the life you deserve beyond this moment." Over a series of sessions, Sarah began to rediscover aspects of herself she had buried under post-betrayal despair. Michael facilitated her transformation, intertwining practical advice with emotional support and resilience-building exercises. As he guided her through reframing her perspectives and shedding the remnants of self-blame, he felt a renewed sense of purpose swell within him. In the midst of his consulting work, Michael also found time to connect with other professionals in related fields, nurturing collaborative relationships. He attended workshops and seminars, both to learn and to share his insights. Each interaction reinforced the belief that the work of healing was a shared journey, one not undertaken alone but fortified by a community of supporters. One afternoon, as Michael hosted a workshop on building emotional resilience, he received an unexpected email that would change the trajectory of his business. It was from a local newspaper, expressing interest in featuring him in an upcoming segment about local entrepreneurs who had turned personal tragedies into paths for growth. The idea of sharing his story with a wider audience ignited a spark of excitement in him. This was an opportunity to reach even more individuals grappling with challenges. As the days passed, preparations for the interview took shape. Michael meticulously reviewed his points, crafting a narrative that conveyed vulnerability interwoven with hope and triumph. He wanted to ensure that anyone listening could see themselves in his story, ordinary people overcoming adversities to reclaim their lives. The day of the interview arrived, and Michael stood in front of the camera, heart pounding, yet invigorated by purpose. As the reporter's questions unfolded, he spoke candidly about his experiences, capturing the essence of redefining oneself in the wake of disillusionment. The interview showcased not only Michael's consulting expertise, but also highlighted the emotional truths that connected all human beings, the commonality of struggle, resilience, and the unwavering pursuit of happiness. When the segment aired, it resonated with viewers far beyond his expectations. Michael's phone buzzed incessantly with calls and messages from individuals inspired to reach out for guidance. Requests for consultations poured in, revitalizing his business, while amplifying his desire to aid even more people rising from the ashes of their despair. But as Michael's reach expanded, so did the echoes of his past. One evening, while preparing dinner with Ethan and Mia, the phone rang. He glanced at the caller ID and froze. It was Laura. The sight of her name elicited a kaleidoscope of emotions. He had barely thought of her over the past weeks, but a tide of memories washed over him. "Dad, is everything okay?" Mia asked, noticing his change in demeanor. Taking a deep breath, he answered the call, steeling himself for whatever conversation lay ahead. "Hello?" "Michael," she began, her voice laden with hesitation. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything." The sting of old resentments pricked at him, but he forced himself to remain composed. "What do you need, Laura?" "I wanted to talk about the kids. I know it's been a while since we've seen each other, and I've been thinking about them a lot. I'm hoping we can work something out so I can visit them soon." The wave of emotions blended into a swell of defensiveness. "You haven't reached out in months. What's changed?" "Things have been hard for me," she confessed, the vulnerability in her voice unable to mask the bitterness that brewed within him. "I've done some soul searching, and I realized the mistakes I made. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Michael. I just want to be a part of their lives again." As Michael listened, conflicting emotions churned within him: remorse, anger, and a hint of sorrow. He thought of everything he had built since their separation. "You've made choices that hurt them and me. It's not that simple anymore. I know, and I don't expect it to be. But the past is the past. I want to be better for them. Can we talk about this in person?" He hesitated, well aware that a meeting could unleash a torrent of emotions best left buried. The thought of reintroducing her into their lives, particularly after everything they had endured, felt daunting. But he also recognized that his children deserved a chance to navigate their feelings about their mother. "Let me think about it," he decided, the words heavy on his tongue. As Michael ended the call, he saw his children watching him, their expressions imbued with curiosity and concern. "Is Mom okay?" Ethan asked softly. "We'll talk about this later," Michael replied, maintaining a calm demeanor. But as the evening progressed, he felt a mounting conflict simmering inside of him. He had crafted a new life, one free from the shadows of their past, yet Laura's presence raised questions that hung in the air like thick fog. Days turned into an agonizing waiting game as he contemplated what to do. Eventually, he settled on a decision. He would meet with Laura, not out of nostalgia, but to set clear boundaries for the sake of their children. He couldn't allow the past to dictate their future, but he also recognized that this moment could shape their journey moving forward. On the day of their meeting, Michael arrived at the cafe early, his heart beating heavily with anticipation. As he waited, he rehearsed what he wanted to say, determined to remain firm, yet not dismissive. When Laura finally walked in, the tangle of emotions intensified, once familiar, now fraught with complexity. She appeared older, shadows casting across her face, a testament to the time apart. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, her voice breaking slightly as she took a seat. Michael nodded, maintaining a neutral expression. "Let's get straight to the point. You want to see the kids?" "I do," she replied sincerely. "And I realize I made terrible choices, but I want to prove I can be a better mother." A tense silence followed. Michael knew it was necessary to dissect this moment with clarity. "You need to understand that trust isn't easily rebuilt," he said, his voice steady but firm. "Mia and Ethan have suffered because of your choices. I won't allow them to get hurt again." "I understand," she whispered, her eyes brimming with tears. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want a chance to show them that I'm trying to change." The conflict within him clawed at his resolve. He had sworn to protect them and create a healthy environment free from toxic patterns. However, he also recognized the importance of maternal connections, the complexity of parenthood. "Let's agree to start slowly," Michael proposed. "We can arrange supervised visits, but I will need time to see that you are serious about changing." "Thank you," she said, voice trembling with gratitude and fear. "It means the world to me. I love them more than anything." "I hope you mean that," he replied, his tone carrying the weight of experience. "If you want to be part of their lives, it's time to demonstrate that commitment." As they spoke about details and possibilities moving forward, Michael couldn't shake the feeling of apprehension. He was firm, yet hopeful, conserving a glimmer of strength. Perhaps this chapter would offer new perspectives, allowing them to redefine their roles and relationships. As the meeting concluded and they exchanged tentative goodbyes, Michael steeled himself for the road ahead. To his surprise, the encounter became both an initiation into reconciliation and a boundary affirmation, an acknowledgement that healing was never linear. From that day onward, he would remain vigilant as Laura re-entered their lives, inspired by the thought that this opportunity was, or could be, one of mutual growth. Determined to honor his children's needs, Michael shifted gears. He intended to foster an environment that would allow his children to flourish amidst the transitions that awaited them. The road ahead paved with possibilities, challenges, and ultimately, healing. As the weeks transitioned into summer, their family unit, once fragmented, adapted to the newfound rhythm of life. Michael embraced the uncertainty while cherishing their unity, around the table, in the park, and through shared laughter. And as he looked toward the horizon of the future, Michael Caine became the architect of a life that promised to exist beyond betrayal. The light had broken through the clouded past, and he was ready to embrace all that lay ahead. As summer rolled on, transformations within Michael's life began to solidify. The initial apprehension surrounding Laura's gradual re-entry faded into a structured, albeit cautious, routine. He had arranged supervised visits to ensure that Mia and Ethan had healthy interactions with their mother, while safeguarding them from the potential pitfalls of emotional manipulation. This new protocol struck a delicate balance, a compromise between allowing their mother to be involved and protecting the sanctity of their family's healing journey. The first supervised visit took place at a local park, a familiar setting that would be comfortable for the children. The sun shone brightly, casting warmth over the green expanse. Michael arrived early to prepare himself, his heart simmering with mixed emotions. He glanced at the swings, the slides, and the laughter that danced in the air. This was supposed to be a lighthearted moment for the kids, and he needed to ensure they felt secure. When Laura arrived, her demeanor exuded trepidation mingled with hope. Michael noted how she had been dressed neatly, an indication of her effort to present herself positively. She approached cautiously, her eyes scanning for the familiar laughter of her children. "Hi, kids," she called out, her voice laced with both joy and unease. Mia and Ethan looked up from their game, expressions a blend of excitement and hesitation. The initial encounter was as awkward as Michael had anticipated. While the kids rushed into Laura's embrace, he observed, cringing slightly at the vulnerability of emotions on display. "Everything feels strange, doesn't it?" he said softly, catching Laura's eye. "Just remember to take it slow." She nodded, a hint of gratitude in her gaze. "I will. I just want to be there for them." For the next hour, Michael kept his distance, allowing the children and Laura to navigate the initial awkwardness together. He found a bench near the swings and watched as they slowly broke through the facade. The barriers of doubt and fear gradually dissolving as laughter filled the air. "Mommy, look!" Ethan exclaimed, expertly swinging higher. Laura held her breath, an anxious expression briefly crossing her face before transforming into pure joy. "Wow, you're getting so big. Just like a real pro," she cheered, clapping her hands enthusiastically. Mia, swinging beside Ethan, soon followed suit, and Michael began to see the threads of their family reweaving, albeit slowly. Although he wished his children could fully embrace Laura without a lingering fear of the past clouding their interactions, this moment was proof that hope was not entirely lost. When the time came for Laura to leave, she knelt down to face her children. "I'll see you soon, okay? I can't wait to do this again." She pressed kisses to their foreheads, lingering just a second longer on Mia's. Michael felt his heart ache as she stood and walked away. He knew these moments meant more to her than she could express. He could feel her struggle, navigating both guilt and the fervent desire to be a present mother. But he reminded himself to remain firm. Trust would take time to rebuild, and he had to prioritize the children's emotional stability. "Dad, do you think Mommy's really going to try harder?" Ethan asked as they headed back to the car, looking up at Michael with hopeful eyes. "I hope so, buddy," Michael replied, glancing over at him. "But remember, actions speak louder than words. We'll just have to wait and see how it goes." Days turned into weeks as their new arrangement continued, featuring regular visits. With every interaction, Michael found himself at a crossroads, balancing the desire to allow Laura the chance at redemption with the need to remain protective of his children. During one visit, Laura brought a box filled with art supplies, eager to engage Mia and Ethan in creative projects. When she unveiled the contents, a collection of paints, brushes, and canvases, Michael observed the children's eyes light up, excitement radiating from them. "Can we paint our favorite things?" Mia asked eagerly. "Of course! Let's make masterpieces," Laura encouraged, her smile genuine, albeit a touch strained. As they settled into their creative endeavor, Michael took a step back, watching them paint as laughter filled the air. Suddenly, he found himself lost in thought. Despite the initial trepidations, it was possible that Laura could change. She was making efforts to connect with them. And perhaps there was room for forgiveness, not in a naive sense, but in a way that honored the present and acknowledged the past. However, a lurking realization crept back in. Healing is seldom linear, and deeper wounds can surface unexpectedly. As the visits progressed, each experience revealed several layers of emotions. Joyful moments often punctuated by insecurities and fears. One evening, while preparing dinner, he received a call from Sarah, the client he had helped navigate her own crisis. She had made tremendous progress and had recently begun dating someone new, someone who shared her commitment to growth. "Michael, I just wanted to thank you again," she said, her voice bubbling with excitement. "I can't believe how far I've come. You really helped me find my way." "I'm thrilled to hear that," he responded, a smile warming his face. "You did the hard work. I just guided you." But their conversation brought a sense of introspection as he reflected on the contrasts of their journeys. They had both faced betrayal and loss, yet here they were, on divergent paths committed to healing. He had helped her reclaim her agency, while he was still grappling with the remnants of his own pain. Even with Laura attempting to return, a lingering tension still gripped his heart, reminding him of the scars that hadn't fully healed. That night, as he tucked Mia and Ethan into bed, the lingering heaviness returned. Michael kissed them both goodnight, noting how important it was to protect their innocence alongside their growing curiosity about their mother. As he settled onto the couch, he felt mentally exhausted, but acutely aware that the quest for healing often required revisiting past wounds. The emotional duality of fostering Laura's presence while guarding his children weighed heavily on him. He glanced out the window, feeling the cool air fill the room as dusk cast shadows over the street. One night led to the next, and soon, a month passed since Laura's return. The visits had yielded positive moments, but also exposed cracks. During their most recent gathering, a seemingly small incident triggered Michael's instincts. While they painted, Mia accidentally spilled paint all over Laura's shirt. "Oh no!" Mia gasped, immediately panicking in response to her mother's startled expression. Laura seemed caught by the surprise of it and reacted with frustration, snapping, "Sweetheart, be careful!" Mia's little face paled, and without thinking, Michael interjected, "Laura, that's a lot for a child to handle. It was an accident. Let's take a breath." Laura shot him a look, clearly feeling overwhelmed. "I just want everything to be perfect," she responded. The edge in her voice pierced the moment. "That's unrealistic," Michael replied firmly, stepping in to intervene. "You can't put these pressures on them. They need to enjoy this time without fear." As the tension escalated, the children glimpsed their mother's mounting frustration. Ethan, sensing his sister's discomfort, quietly began to back away from the situation, retreating from his own excitement. Michael paused, heart racing with the realization that Laura hadn't yet recognized the need to let go of control. But they were making progress, and he couldn't risk everything unraveling in one moment of stress. "Let's clean this up together," he suggested softly, moving toward the mess. "It's just paint. Mistakes happen, and they can be part of the fun." As they worked together to clean up, he noticed Laura's expression begin to thaw, and the tension in the air shifted. The moment became a reminder that mistakes were not punishable. They were opportunities to bond and grow. As weeks turned into months, Michael came to understand that the journey involving Laura would not culminate in a neatly packaged resolution. Instead, it would require consistent effort to navigate their relationships and the boundaries necessary to maintain emotional safety. The path to trust can often feel laborious, yet every moment became an investment in their emotional future. His discussions with the kids became more intricate, allowing them to express feelings openly about their interactions with Mom, while recognizing their evolving identities within their father's new reality. "Dad, do you think we'll ever be whole again?" Mia asked one evening after a visit with Laura, the innocence of her query pulling at Michael's heartstrings. "Whole doesn't mean without scars," he replied gently. "It means learning to embrace all the parts of us, the good and the bad. Healing takes time and understanding." As spring arrived, the family continued to define themselves not by the betrayal they endured, but by the resilience they cultivated. And although complexities remained, they navigated the path forward, determined to embrace the possibilities of the future together, guided by love, honesty, and the promise of hope. In quiet moments, Michael reflected on how far he had come, not just from the pain of betrayal, but toward realizing the profound importance of family, connection, and redemption. He understood the divergence in their paths. Their journeys would continue to unfold, revealing layers of compassion, forgiveness, and the beauty of human connections in their wake. With each passing day, as new experiences unfolded, Michael embraced his role as a father, mentor, and guide, not just for his children, but for those like Sarah who were carving their own paths through tumultuous waters. He moved forward with an unwavering commitment to foster light in the darkness, a beacon for those still lost, illuminating the possibilities that unfold when one dares to embark on a journey toward healing. And in all of that, Michael Caine was ready to embrace the journey ahead, forever vigilant yet empowered by love. With the arrival of summer, Michael found himself standing on solid ground, fortified by the journey he and his children had endured. The chaotic rhythm of life had transformed into a sense of stability, albeit one built on the fragile foundation of patience and understanding. As the days grew longer and warmer, he became increasingly aware of the subtle shifts taking place within their family dynamic. Laura's involvement in the children's lives blossomed, though she remained under the watchful eye of Michael. Each visit became an opportunity for constructive interaction, helping to deepen their connection through shared activities. Whether it was painting, baking cookies, or exploring local trails, the experiences fostered playful exchanges, softening the edges of their fractured history. One Saturday afternoon, while sitting in the park, Michael observed the children engage with Laura in a game of tag. Laughter echoed through the trees, an unmistakable sound of pure joy, a melody that filled a previously empty space. For a moment, he allowed himself to hope that they could all emerge from the shadows. That forgiveness might lead to healing. Yet he remained cautious, aware of the complexities that still loomed. As the days turned into weeks, Michael watched closely for any sign of Laura's own development as a person. He noticed, during one particular visit, how her anxieties flared when things didn't go according to plan. While they tried to build a gentle rapport, a flicker of frustration clouded her features whenever the kids acted out or made a mess. It reminded him of the events that had once separated them, and it became clear that some old patterns could reemerge under duress. That summer afternoon, as the sun dipped low on the horizon, Michael made a decision. He would take a proactive approach to discuss these patterns with Laura. It was essential to create a nurturing environment for their children, one where Laura could meaningfully engage without succumbing to the weight of expectations she placed upon herself. "Hey, Laura," he began as they cleaned up from the picnic. "I wanted to talk about our dynamic. I see how much you want to be a good mom, but sometimes I notice you get overwhelmed when things don't go perfectly." She paused, surprise flickering across her features as she processed his words. "I know I can be a bit too much at times," she admitted, looking down at her hands. "I just want to show them I can be responsible. I get that, and I appreciate your efforts. But I think it's really important for them to see that it's okay for things to be messy sometimes. They're kids, after all." Laura's expression softened. "You're right. I guess I've been so afraid of failing them again that I push too hard. Growth takes time," he reassured gently. "Let's remind ourselves to enjoy these moments rather than stress about them. None of us are perfect, and they need to know that it's okay to make mistakes." In that conversation, Michael felt a shift. A glimmer of hope sparked between them as they began to redefine the boundaries while nurturing the potential for a healthy co-parenting relationship. The more Laura opened up about her fears and insecurities, the more Michael saw the potential for true emotional growth in her journey. As August approached, something unexpected happened. Michael received a call from a local community center, inviting him to host a workshop on resilience and emotional well-being. They had seen the news segment highlighting his consulting business and wanted him to contribute to their community outreach efforts. Pumped with motivation, Michael accepted, aware that sharing his journey could empower others navigating similar challenges. The chance to facilitate an open discussion on healing resonated deeply with him. It would allow him to weave together his personal experiences with actionable strategies that others could apply to their lives. While preparing for the workshop, he envisioned creating an inclusive environment where attendees could share their stories, ask questions, and connect. He wanted to ensure that everyone left with tangible takeaways, whether it was through learning coping mechanisms or engaging in practical exercises. On the day of the workshop, people shuffled into the community center, bright smiles on their faces, but with visible trepidation in their eyes as they settled into their seats. Michael stood at the front, overwhelmed yet exhilarated, as he faced a room filled with individuals seeking guidance and connection. "Welcome, everyone," he started, his voice steady. "I want to thank you for being here today. Each of you carries your own story, and I truly believe in the power of shared experiences for healing." As he shared his own journey of betrayal, resilience, and ultimately transformation, he noticed the attendees lean in closer, drawn to the authenticity of his words. He described his work with Sarah and others, emphasizing the importance of community, compassion, and establishing healthy boundaries. Through interactive activities that engaged the group, journaling, group discussions, and sharing reflections, he saw walls slowly tumble. People connected over their shared experiences of loss, heartache, and even moments of enlightenment. The room buzzed with vulnerability, laughter, and empathy, a phenomenon he had only dreamed of instilling in others. Toward the end of the workshop, he opened the floor for questions, fully expecting some challenges. An older woman raised her hand. "Michael, how do you manage your emotions when dealing with such a traumatic past?" His response hinged on one key principle: acceptance. It's not about erasing the past, but rather embracing it. Acknowledging that it shaped who we are today allows us to redefine our reactions and gain control over our futures. After the session concluded, attendees expressed heartfelt gratitude, some even asking for clarification on specific techniques they could apply in their lives. He felt exhilarated. The connection he fostered with this diverse group was electric. Over the following weeks, Michael continued to host gatherings and workshops, establishing himself not only within the consulting world, but as a leading voice in community resilience. Word of mouth spread like wildfire, and requests for consultations increased dramatically, causing his practice to flourish in ways he had never anticipated. As Michael reflected on this success, he drew parallels to his own journey. Each week, he basked in the joy of connecting with people, forging their paths toward healing. much like he had done in his own tumultuous journey. Meanwhile, his own family life continued to evolve, and Laura's visits became increasingly constructive. During a picnic one evening, as they watched Mia and Ethan play in the distance, he turned to Laura, feeling a surge of gratitude for the strides they had both made. "I think we're doing well," he ventured lightly. "I agree," she replied, a shy smile creeping onto her face. "It's still a work in progress, but I feel like I'm learning to enjoy this time with them." Encouraged by her acknowledgement, Michael continued, "I know we're navigating a lot, but as long as we keep communicating and supporting one another, I truly believe we can make this work." Their journey toward co-parenting wasn't without hiccups, but each earned moment served as progress, a testament to heartfelt conversations and efforts invested in understanding each other's perspectives. By the time autumn arrived, the seasons shifted not only in nature, but in their family as well. Michael's home had transformed into a space not only of healing and growth, but also of profound love and connection. The autumn leaves painted a breathtaking backdrop, symbolizing renewal and change. One chilly evening, he gathered Mia and Ethan around the dining table, each kid beaming with excitement as they prepared to carve pumpkins for Halloween. They laughed, traded stories, and devoured snacks, a stark contrast to the strained moments they'd once endured. "Dad, can we make our pumpkins spooky?" Ethan asked, eyes wide with wonder, as he envisioned the creative possibilities. "Absolutely. Let's get crazy with it," he replied, laughter spilling over as they dove into the project. Amidst the laughter, Michael's heart swelled. This was the essence of familial warmth he had fought so hard to reclaim. The journey would always evolve. He would remain steadfast in nurturing the path toward love, kindness, and growth. As the days transitioned, he carried a renewed appreciation for these moments, the sheer joy of building connections and cultivating emotional depth. Together, they embraced uncertainty while savoring the delightful chaos of life, hand in hand, forging a brighter path into the future. And as Michael watched his children frolic in their newfound bliss, he felt a swirling blend of nostalgia and hope. While shadows of betrayal lingered like reminders of a challenging past, the bonds they nurtured made room for new beginnings, a canvas of experiences waiting to be painted anew. Here, amidst the laughter and loving chaos, Michael knew that healing was a journey worth embarking on, and for that, he felt nothing short of grateful. As each day dawned anew, so too did the steadfast belief that resilience could blossom from even the darkest moments, giving rise to infinite possibilities ahead. As the crispness of autumn settled in, Michael relished the transition, not just in the seasons, but in the dynamics of his life. The Halloween spirit surrounded them, and everywhere he looked, his children thrived in the familiarity of a newfound rhythm. The laughter and joy permeating their home marked a stark contrast to the tumultuous echoes of the past, breathing fresh air into every corner of their lives. The annual Halloween party at the community center was just around the corner, and excitement buzzed in the air. Michael encouraged Mia and Ethan to pick costumes that reflected their personalities, allowing them the freedom to express themselves creatively. They giggled as they rifled through old boxes in the attic, searching for remnants of past Halloweens, reminiscing about who they had been and who they dreamed of becoming. Ethan eventually settled on the idea of being a knight, fueled by his obsession with tales of nobility and heroics, while Mia chose a fairy costume, complete with shimmering wings that fluttered gently every time she moved. Michael helped them assemble the costumes, filled with joy watching their creativity flourish. Each crafting session became more than mere preparation. It served as another opportunity to bond and create cherished memories. That afternoon, while they worked on finishing touches, Ethan got excited and shouted, "Dad, being a knight means I protect everyone, right?" Michael chuckled. "Absolutely. Knights protect their families and friends just like you do." "What about you, Dad? What would you be?" Ethan asked innocently. With a moment's pause, Michael considered the question deeply. "Perhaps I'd be the wise king, who guides and helps everyone make the right choices." "Then you have to wear a crown," Mia exclaimed, twirling in her shimmering fairy wings. Michael nodded, smiling at the thought. That sounds perfect. But my crown will be invisible. It's more about what I do than how I look. The kids nodded, their applause echoing around the living room. Depth like that echoed understanding. While the past shaped them, it wouldn't define their present. When Halloween night finally arrived, the community center buzzed with energy. Families arrived in droves, creating a sea of colorful costumes and joyful laughter that filled the air. Michael watched as his children blended seamlessly into the festivities, their beaming faces alight with excitement. Observing Mia and Ethan playfully darting between groups, he was reminded of how far they had come. Just a year ago, Halloween felt like a distant memory, fraught with tension and fear. Now, it overflowed with pure joy. Michael mingled amongst the crowd, greeting friends and neighbors, while keeping an eye on his children. As the evening progressed, a costume contest was announced, drawing everyone's attention. Mia and Ethan's eyes widened. "Can we enter, Dad?" they asked in unison. "Of course. Let's showcase your creativity," Michael replied, filled with pride. The contest was fierce, with imaginative costumes ranging from superheroes to fantastical creatures. Yet when it was their turn to present, Mia and Ethan effortlessly stole the show. Their camaraderie shined as they stepped onto the stage, each presenting their character with gusto. Ethan brandished an imaginary sword, striking a valiant pose, while Mia fluttered her wings and danced around him, enchanting everyone around. When the time came to announce the winners, the judges drew out the anticipation. And the award for Best Duo Costume goes to Ethan the Brave Knight and Mia the Fairy. Cheers erupted from the crowd, a rapturous applause ringing through the hall as they took their victory lap. Michael couldn't help but beam with pride, filled with gratitude for the joy etched on their faces. This night was a testament to healing, the power of love triumphing over adversity. As the evening came to an end, Michael settled into a moment of reflection, watching the departing families traverse the parking lot, filled with laughter and warmth. He recognized how intricate their paths had become, the continual interplay of struggle and triumph shaping the vibrant family they had created. Just as he was about to leave, he noticed Laura walking toward the center, a nervous expression on her face as she watched the festivities from a distance. For a moment, he felt the old ghosts of distrust rise up, but he steadied himself, reminding himself of the progress they had made. A sense of compassion surged within him as he considered how hard she must have worked to feel comfortable in attending. Deciding to bridge the gap, he approached her with a friendly smile. "Hey, I'm glad you came. The kids are having a blast." Laura returned the smile, albeit tentatively. "I didn't want to intrude, but I thought it would be nice to see them having fun." "The more, the merrier," he encouraged warmly. "You're welcome to join us." She hesitated, uncertainty flickering across her features, but then nodded. "Oh, I'd love to help celebrate with them." As they walked toward the children, he couldn't help but notice how her demeanor softened. Michael introduced her to some of the families, and while awkward at first, the interactions eased as laughter filled the air. Laura engaged with the kids, offering some pointers on their next crafting project, and Michael saw glimpses of warmth in her interactions, reminders that growth was consistently unfolding. Later that night, as they returned home, a serene sense filled the car. The kids chattered excitedly, recounting the highlights of the night, lost in their own joyous world. The atmosphere created a promising closeness within their family unit, one he was eager to foster. After putting Mia and Ethan to bed, Michael went to the living room, feeling a mixture of contentment and burgeoning curiosity about the road ahead. The growing relationship with Laura seemed fragile yet manageable, a dance between old wounds and the burgeoning hope of a healthier dynamics for their family. His thoughts turned to the upcoming community workshop, hoping to facilitate a gathering that could reflect their progress, perhaps even bringing Laura in to speak on her experiences. It might provide her with an avenue for expressing her growth while reinforcing her commitment to the children. As he crafted the outline for the upcoming workshop, he found himself infused with renewed energy. The themes he planned to tackle, healing, resilience, and the complexity of familial relationships, were woven from their shared experiences. His heart swelled with the realization that he was more than just surviving. He was actively rebuilding his world, layer by layer. As the next few days unfolded, Michael implemented adjustments to his workshop plans, inviting Laura to share her journey and highlighting her strengths as part of the community. When he approached her about the idea, he was met with surprise. "Me? Speak in front of people?" she stammered, anxiety flashing through her eyes. "It's important," he encouraged gently. "Your growth and willingness to change can inspire so many. It shows that no matter how lost someone may feel, there's always a path forward." Her apprehension remained, yet deep down, Michael sensed her desire to step into her authenticity, to embrace the change she sought. After some persuasion and a few days to reflect upon it, Laura agreed to co-host the workshop. "You're right," she whispered, determination gaining momentum. "I want to show not only the kids, but others that it's okay to fail and to rise again." The days leading up to the workshop formed a tapestry of collaborative effort. As they prepared together, Michael admired Laura's burgeoning confidence. Her willingness to share not just her successes, but also her struggles, provided windows into vulnerability that resonated powerfully. Finally, the day of the workshop arrived, the community center buzzing with excitement. As attendees gathered, Michael felt a surge of nerves tempered by the knowledge of how far they had come together. After opening the session, he introduced Laura, who stood beside him, visibly trembling. "I'm so grateful to be here with all of you, representing the journey of healing. It hasn't always been easy, and I've stumbled, but being here today is proof that change is possible," she spoke, her voice gaining momentum. The raw honesty she shared resonated with many in the audience. She described the journey through loss, the emotional weight of regret, and redemptive moments that had guided her toward her current self. As she spoke, Michael felt pride swell within him. Her vulnerability sparked open dialogue among those present, encouraging others to engage openly about their own wounds and journeys toward healing. Together, they created a collective environment where connection and support reigned. When the workshop concluded, attendees expressed heartfelt gratitude, many approaching Michael and Laura with tears of appreciation. The impact of their shared effort pulled at his heartstrings, bringing forth the realization that healing was a multidimensional journey. Over the next few months, their relationship continued to flourish, albeit gently and intentionally. They maintained regular communication, talking frequently not just about the kids, but also about fostering a supportive partnership built on mutual respect. As the holiday season approached, an air of cautious optimism filled their conversations. The winter holidays brought new experiences, including an exciting family-centric Thanksgiving and a heartfelt celebration of Christmas. Each event was layered with the rituals of togetherness, echoing traditions resurfacing throughout their family. As they settled into this profound phase of growth, Michael embraced the significance of trust, the light of hope shining bright, illuminating the path ahead. They were learning to turn the page, their pasts intertwined in a tapestry of healing and resilience. As winter settled in, he felt blessed, surrounded by his children, grateful for the relationships being rebuilt, and hopeful for the possibilities on the horizon. The journey forward remained uncertain but resplendent with love, compassion, and endless opportunities to deepen their collective bonds. With renewed determination and the blossoming relationships they had forged, Michael Caine understood that while the past would always be a part of him, it did not dictate who he was destined to become. He reveled in the thought that healing was not a destination, but rather a transformative journey that unfolds with each new day, a treasure trove yet to be fully realized. And as the first snowfall blanketed their town, he opened his heart to the boundless potential of what lay just beyond the horizon. As winter deepened, Michael found joy in the many small moments that filled their days. The snow blanketing his neighborhood created a picturesque scene, one that seemed to wrap their family in warmth despite the cold. Together, Michael, Mia, and Ethan decorated the house with twinkling lights, creating a cozy atmosphere that brought magic to their evenings. The holiday season became a gathering point, a time for reaffirming connections and creating new traditions. From baking cookies to setting up a tree, each moment was filled with laughter, warmth, and the unmistakable love that had woven its way back into their lives. The memories began to sparkle, a reminder that healing didn't just stem from overcoming challenges, it also thrived in the joyful moments they created together. With Laura actively involved in the kids' lives, Michael felt more balanced. She had shifted her focus toward nurturing her role as a mother, instead of battling her previous demons. Both parents worked diligently to maintain open, honest communication, cultivating an environment that encouraged growth and understanding for everyone involved. One snowy evening during a cozy family dinner, Michael suggested starting a new tradition to welcome the new year. How about we each share one thing we've learned this year and our hopes for the upcoming one? The idea sparked excitement in both Mia and Ethan, and they eagerly nodded, their eyes sparkling with anticipation. "I want to go first," Ethan exclaimed. "All right, let's hear it," Michael prompted. "I learned that being brave means trying new things, like when I joined the soccer team," he said with enthusiasm. His little face lit up as he recalled the experience. "Well done, buddy. What's your hope for next year?" Michael asked. Ethan thought for a moment. "I hope I score lots of goals," he declared proudly. Mia, ever the dreamer, chimed in next. "I learned that imagination is powerful. I want to write stories that come to life." "That sounds amazing, Mia. I can't wait to read them," Michael replied, feeling proud of how expressive his children had become. With the children's excitement, Michael turned to Laura. "What about you?" Laura's expression deepened, her eyes reflecting both joy and contemplation. "This year taught me that resilience comes in many forms. I want to focus on showing the kids that making mistakes is part of life, and learning from them can help them grow." Michael nodded, appreciating her willingness to embrace emotional complexity. "I admire that, Laura." Finally, he shared his own reflection. "For me, this year reinforced the importance of family and community. I hope to continue fostering connections and creating a supportive environment for all of us." As they exchanged smiles and hopes, Michael sensed the bonds weaving tighter, a celebration of not just the journey they had traversed, but of the vibrant future unfolding before them. Months passed, bringing countless moments of joy and laughter. The children thrived, both at school and in their extracurricular activities, transforming into confident, expressive individuals. Their vibrant personalities reflected their evolving perspectives, nurtured within a framework of love and support. Within his work, Michael's consulting business flourished too. He had gained a reputation in the community for guiding others through their own healing journeys. His workshops expanded, reaching individuals from diverse walks of life, each eager for hope and connection. The feedback poured in, and he found deep satisfaction in witnessing the impact he was making. Reminders that every hurdle they had faced had not been in vain. During one impactful workshop, he decided to share his own vulnerable story again, weaving in pieces of Laura's journey alongside his own. He wanted attendees to see that transformation was possible, even for those who once faltered. The stories of resilience rippled through the room, resonating with so many people who felt a flicker of hope ignite within them, urging them forward. As spring approached, Michael received a text from Laura one evening. "Can we talk? I've been reflecting on some things." Concern washed over him, and he texted back, "Of course. When would you like to meet?" They arranged to sit down the following weekend over coffee. As Michael prepared himself for their conversation, he found the blend of nostalgia and anxiety coursing through him. He focused on how far they'd come, convinced that establishing a mature partnership would be essential for their family's success. On the day of their meeting, Michael arrived early at their favorite cafe. The familiar surroundings were steeped in memories, shaping a backdrop for this critical conversation. When Laura walked in, her expression was earnest, signaling that what she wanted to discuss must hold great significance. "Thanks for meeting me," she said, settling into the seat across from him. Of course, how have you been? Michael asked, genuinely keen to hear. I've been doing a lot of thinking, Laura began, her tone quiet but resolute, about what it means to be a mother, a friend, and a co-parent. I realized that I want to be more than just a presence in their lives. I want to be a source of stability and support as well. That's great to hear, Michael said, giving her an encouraging nod. What does that look like for you? Laura took a deep breath. I'd like to take on more responsibility for parenting, perhaps alternate weekends, help with homework, and maybe even be involved in their school activities more actively. Cautious awareness filled Michael, and he considered her words carefully. I think it's important that you show up consistently, but I hope you understand that earning trust takes time. Our kids need to feel secure in this arrangement. I completely understand, she replied earnestly. I'm ready to prove myself to them and to you. They discussed logistics, crafting a plan that would gradually integrate Laura into the kids' daily lives more effectively. As they finalized arrangements, Michael felt a sense of optimism. An unmistakable shift that suggested a new chapter for their family was dawning. Over the following weeks, Michael watched as Laura took definitive strides toward being an engaged parent. They organized outings together, celebrated achievements, and initiated heartfelt conversations about feelings, transforming from merely coexisting to flourishing together. As summer approached, the community was abuzz with preparations for the annual neighborhood block party. Michael decided to create a fun family float, symbolizing their unity and growth over the past year as a way to invite other families to celebrate positive connections within the community. In the following days, he involved Mia and Ethan in designing the float, and even Laura joined in, bringing her own ideas to the table. They laughed together while crafting decorations, their collaborative spirit growing stronger with each glue stick and piece of glitter. On the day of the block party, Michael felt an undeniable sense of joy as they paraded down the street. The sight of Mia and Ethan beaming with happiness, waving at friends and neighbors, filled him with a proud warmth. Laura walked beside them, genuinely engaging with the kids, amplifying the celebratory atmosphere. As they rode on their float, laughter echoed through the streets. Michael held on to the clarity that this was all possible because of the hard work they had put in. Each interaction, each shared moment, built a bridge that connected their past with the vibrant future they were shaping together. By sunset, the block party morphed into a joyful gathering of people celebrating one another's presence, and they all came together as a community. Moments of connection blossomed amid conversation, laughter, and shared experiences. As he looked around, Michael realized they were no longer defined solely by past pain. Together, they had cultivated a narrative filled with resilience, healing, and newfound connections. What had once seemed impossible began to manifest as a joyful reality. A family forged anew. Their collective laughter echoed in the warm evening air, a fitting tribute to the power of change, nurturing every step they collectively had taken toward a brighter future. As the stars twinkled overhead, Michael knew they were precisely where they were meant to be. A family woven together by love, understanding, and the grace of new beginnings. The tapestry of their journey would forever be enriched by the experiences they had shared, a beautiful reminder that healing can indeed lead to flourishing, a truth he and his children were becoming skilled at living every day.